Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday night, which means it is match preview showtime. But as you can see, I am flying solo for this one. It's been a manic week, what with the additional match day live on Tuesday. So slightly different. Just going to have to put up with my dulcet tones. So I'm going to have a quick look back at that Bradford defeat. Before then, previewing this Saturday's game as we travel up north to take on Simon Weaver's Harrogate Town. Tuesday was just one of them nights, unfortunately, wasn't it? One of them games where too many were slightly off it. We just looked a little bit flat and a little bit off the pace. Even in the crowd, everything just felt a little bit forced and reactive. Certainly wasn't the same levels of atmosphere as we've seen in recent home games against Wimbledon, Grimsby, that late winner a couple of Tuesdays ago. And the away games, the likes of Swindon and Rochdale and Colchester, where we've been loud. Not sure why. We know there was a certain radio interview that went out the day of the Bradford game. I'm not putting it down to that, and that is all I'm going to say on the matter. But yeah, Bradford were just better than us on the night, all over the pitch, weren't they? When you're coming up against sides that are, you know, pushing the playoffs in touching distance of the top three, you've got to be at it from first whistle to last. And unfortunately, it just felt like everything was a little bit rushed and a little bit panicked. From a Gills point of view. We were missing some key players, which obviously didn't help. The likes of Robbie McKenzie and Timmy Dieng, Alex McDonald, all missed out due injury and or illness. Plays a big part, but it's, you know, it's not a result that defines our season. What we've had to do in January was bring in players to beat those clubs that are around us. I just thought Bradford were, like I say, much better than us all over the pitch. You can't give teams like that, you know, a head start. And unfortunately, both goals from our point of view are not the best. Do we do enough to stop the cross coming in for the first one? Does Glenn Morris do enough? Like I said on the match day live, I thought he almost took half a step to come out as if he was going to come and claim it and then didn't. Did that then lead to Shea Alexander not getting off the ground quick enough and allow Richie Smallwood to run into the back of him and head it into the bottom corner? There's been a few debates on social media about was it a foul. There is a nudge on Shea Alexander. As we always do, we try to flip it the other way. If it was us attacking and it was disallowed, I think we'd be disappointed. There's some contact, but is there enough for it to be deemed an offence? I'm not sure. Referee wasn't sure. Referee wasn't sure all night. Let's be honest. And then obviously second half, you can't start like we did. Maxime has been immaculate for quite a while now. I think he got Player of the Month on the recent ME7 podcast, and that was the curse, unfortunately, like the Manager of the Month curse, because he's to blame for the second goal. There's no way of dressing it up any different. He has to shepherd the ball out and be stronger, or he has to just put it into the Gordon Road stand. Ends up doing neither. But you've got to give credit to Andy Cook. From there, he's still got loads to do. Runs, drives at Conor Masterson, little drop of the shoulder, leaves him on his backside. Glenn Morris rushes out, looks like he's trying to narrow the angle. Really composed, dinked over the top of Glenn. 2-0 against a side that have got, I think, the joint best away record in the division. Meant it was a mountain to climb from there. And we had our moments, don't get me wrong. We had our half chances, didn't we? There was some decent play down our right that led to Shea Alexander whipping a ball in, and Jules Lapsley managed to get between the two centre-backs and forced the keeper to tip over the bar. There was an Aidan O'Brien header from the same side, little glancing one that you just thought was going to drift in at the bottom corner, but it didn't. It went wide of the post, and at that point you're starting to think it's not going to be our night. I think there was another Jules Lapsley one from the left, and it just sort of hit him and went wide of the near post. You need one of them to go in, to get the crowd up, to get the players up, and then you never know, we might have gone and pinched something, but it didn't happen. Yeah, like I say, just one of them nights where everyone was like a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10. Two standouts for me were Aidan O'Brien from the off. I thought he was very, very good. He came into the 11. Tom Nichols was only fit enough for the bench, wasn't he? Harry's centre-backs doesn't let them have a moment's peace, doesn't allow them to play at their pace. Technically, his feet are brilliant. I said it on the Monday review for Wimbledon, he just looks like he really loves playing the game and he's really enjoying his football again. I thought him and Oliver Hawkins started really well. They really bossed the two centre-backs in the early stages, but the sucker punch was the goal. And in the end, Bradford saw it out fairly comfortably, didn't they? The other one, for me, in terms of big positive, was Ethan Coleman. It's the first glimpse we've seen of him in a Gills shirt. He got the last 20 minutes. That was an area of the pitch that I think led to us falling down a little bit in terms of performance. No Dieng. Alex McDonald missed out due to illness. Stuart Keith come back in for his first game in 5-6 weeks. Looked off the pace after a decent enough start. Sean Williams was playing not fully fit. there was just a few factors that sort of contrived to be against us, but that's no excuse. Bradford were better on the night all over the park from 1 to 11 and deserved their 3 points. But yeah, Ethan Coleman, back to him. That was a really promising cameo. He got the last 20 minutes or so. I put a tweet up yesterday. I think it was like 75, 80% pass completion. A couple of good tackles in there and interceptions as well. Yeah, really brave cameo. It would have been easy to come on and be safe and just go backwards and square. But there was a couple of times where he was trying to pass in between the lines. So for me, that's one to keep an eye on. One that hopefully would force himself, that could force himself into the 18 on a more regular basis. I know Neil Harris has said he's been close on a few occasions. So certainly one to keep an eye on, and certainly a prospect moving forward is Ethan Coleman. On now to Saturday's game though, it's another big one, isn't it? We're down there right next to Harrogate in the table. I think we're just above them with a game in hand. So it's another huge match for both teams as we both attempt to make more progress and put further distance between us and the relegation zone. If we look at the current form of the two sides, last 6, Harrogate Town, it's not pretty reading for Town fans. It's 4 draws and 2 defeats. So it's just 4 points from the last 18 available. For the Gills, despite defeat in the week, 4 wins and 2 losses from the last 6 games. That's 12 points from 18 on offer, which is a very, very good return. Still somewhere near the top of the form table since the new group of players came in that we keep talking about. Breaking it down a little bit further, home and away, it's even worse for Harrogate. It's just 3 draws and 3 defeats over their last 6 on their own patch. So 3 points from 18 available, something that Gills can potentially target. In terms of us on the road, 3 losses, 2 wins and a draw. So 7 points from the last 18. There's been good wins in there at Rochdale and Colchester. It's a very decent point at Swindon that we should have won as well. But what I've said about us, looking at them recent results, is we've been very good against teams in and around us, haven't we? In recent weeks, you look at the fixtures, we've beaten Hartlepool. We went to Colchester and won 2-0, kept a clean sheet there like we did against Poole. Crawley kept a clean sheet, Rochdale kept a clean sheet and won. So it's 12 points from 12 out of them teams around us over the last 6 weeks, which is a cracking effort and has allowed us to take ourselves out of the relegation zone and put 7 points between us and the danger zone. Harrogate at the other end of the spectrum are really, really struggling at the moment, aren't they? It's just 1 win in their last dozen games. And they've kept just 2 clean sheets in that time. They've scored a few, don't get me wrong, they've got good players at the top end of the pitch and we'll get onto them shortly. But it's certainly a game that Gills should be thinking we can go and win, not just, get a point. A point wouldn't be a disaster, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a game that Gills and Neil Harris can go, if we're at it like we have been against them teams that I've already mentioned, then there's no reason why we can't enjoy that long journey back home with 3 points in our back pocket. Looking at Harrogate in more detail, we know Simon Weaver's their manager. He's been there, I think, since 2009, longest serving manager in the EFL by some distance. Just everything associated with Harrogate's rise over the last decade and a half has been intertwined with Simon Weaver. I know his dad's the chairman. It's a very family orientated club, I do believe. So it'd be interesting to see how they did react if they were to fall through the trapdoor back in the National League. But I think it's a club that really likes stability. So I don't think Weaver would necessarily be a gimme to be sacked, because he's been such a huge part of the success they've had over the last few years. In terms of players that we've already mentioned that I've picked out, dangerous players, we've got Luke Armstrong, who's got 11 in 33 in the league, so he'll be a threat, someone we'll have to keep an eye on. And Alex Pattinson, who scored in the reverse fixture back in August when they beat us 2-0, and at the time I thought they looked a very good side. That was the game where Gills were brilliant for half an hour, created loads of chances, but such was the problems back then, we didn't take any. And then they scored a good goal on the break. We had to chase the game and they scored another decent goal on the break. But yeah, Alex Pattinson scored that night. He's got 7 in 27. So that's 2 names that jumped off the page for me that we're going to have to be aware of, that are going to pose a threat in and around our 18-yard box. In terms of January business, they did a few bits. They got Anthony O'Connor in from Morecambe on a permanent deal. And I think it's Jack Levi Sutton from Bradford arrived as well towards the end of the window. A couple of loan deals as well. Matty Folds from Bradford came in until the end of the season, I think it was. And Tom Eastman, likewise, from Colchester United, very experienced centre-half at the level. It's going to be a tough game. They're scrapping and fighting for their lives like we are. So it's not going to be a case of we just go up there and turn up and the 3 points will be ours. But at the same time, they're going to be looking at us and thinking this is a side in form, albeit they got beat in the week. But we've already mentioned it's still 12 points from the last 18 available. And the away form's decent, isn't it? It's 7 points from the last 12 if you break it down even further. So we've been decent enough. We do need to start climbing that away table. I was looking at comparative tables on the internet the other evening, and I think we're about just below I think we're about 15th, 16th in terms of the home table with 22 points, but we're second bottom away from home with only 11 points. But albeit we do have a game in hand over Crawley and a couple of others, so we could jump up if we win at the weekend. Yeah, defensively was an interesting one as well. I think we sit 13th based on goals conceded. So again, it all goes back to the same issues that we had at the start of the campaign, where we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. There's been very few occasions where we've been absolutely bashed. But yeah, back to the here and now on Saturday afternoon. Recording this Wednesday evening, so there's no press conferences again. Gills would have had a day off. I don't know what Harrogate's pattern is in terms of days off in the week. Robbie McKenzie, I know Neil Harris has come out after the Bradford defeat and said, going to have to keep an eye on him and take it day by day. It seems to be a groin problem. You don't want to rush him back and he ends up tearing it and we lose him for longer. So that's one that I'd imagine would still be a doubt. Alex McDonald is on antibiotics, so fingers crossed he can be fit and ready for selection for the weekend with another few days to go. And who was the other one that missed out? Tim Dieng. Again, that'll be touch and go, won't it, because of concussion protocols. Neil Harris admitted and said that he thinks Timmy's slightly behind the curveball in terms of where he needs to be with the daily checks and the progress that he's making. So it could be that we have to patch ourselves up a little bit again. So in terms of Gills 11, I think I've made a couple of changes to the team that started on Tuesday night. I would go Glenn Morris in goal. I think the back four picks itself at the moment. So I'd go Shea Alexander, Maxima, Connor Marston, David Tatonda. I know there was question marks over both Alexander and Maxima in the defeat on Tuesday night, but all players make mistakes. I don't think it's a case for suddenly start changing that back four that's generally been very good with minimal tweaks over the last few weeks. In the middle of the park, I'd go Sean Williams sitting in front and protecting as the captain. Stuart O'Keefe comes out for me. He just looked like a player that hasn't played a lot. And dare I say it, a player that looks to have lost a little bit out of his game in terms of that bite ability to win tackles. It might just be because he's not played, but for me, the Ethan Coleman cameo said that Stuart O'Keefe's potentially, further down the pecking order now, and dare I say it, not going to have his contract renewed, which is a shame because he's been a brilliant pro for us over the last few years. We know for a season and a half, 2 seasons, he was absolutely brilliant. But for me, it'd be Sean Williams, Alex McDonald, if he's fit, Dom Jeffries and George Lackley. It was very tight between Macca and Ethan Coleman, but I just think it's a game where we know we can win. We've been very good against teams around us, and I'm not sure I'd want Coleman and Williams in the same team. That's a little bit defensive-minded for me. So we can set this up in the diamond, and then if need be, Macca and Dom can do what they've done so well in recent weeks and spring wide when we pinch ball and get into the opposition half. I'll make one change up top as well. I'd go Aidan O'Brien and Tom Nichols this week. He's had 2 rough games, Ollie Hawkins. Got manhandled by Wimbledon, was double-teamed in that game, was double-teamed against Bradford as well. So he's clearly doing stuff right. And that's why teams are making sure that they've got 2 men and around him. Basically, centre-half's been trying to undress him for 2 games, haven't they? And he got very little protection. So I'd take him out of the far line, give him a rest. There's no decrease in level, is there, to the front 2 if you play Tommy Nichols and Aidan O'Brien up top. So that would be my team. Substitutes bench would be Jake Turner, Will Wright, Ethan Coleman, Hakiba Delacoon, Ollie Hawkins, Joe Gabode and Tristan Abrahams. Joe Gabode as well, just quickly before we go, has signed his first professional contract on Wednesday. So congratulations to Joe. Brilliant reward for all his hard work. Scores goals for fun at under 18, under 23 level. He's been out to Hastings a couple of times and done really well. Been in and around the squad plenty this season as the homegrown player. So really, really good to see that, and fingers crossed he can kick on over the coming months into next season. Before we go, final part of the show, as always, is score prediction. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say that we're going to bounce back after disappointment in the week, and I'm going to predict us to win by 2-1. And I'm going to say Aidan O'Brien will get his first goal for the club, and Tom Nichols will return to the score sheet. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. We have just gone past 2,400 subscribers in the last day or so. So to all of you. Like I say, over and over again, this channel is absolutely nothing without the support of you lot doing what you do, subscribing, watching, liking, retweeting, commenting, interacting. It really is appreciated, and I cannot say that enough. So cheers again. Enjoy the rest of your week. If you're travelling to Harrogate, you was lucky to get a ticket because it sold out really quick. Be loud, be proud, cheer on the boys. Do not forget that these videos are now in association with the Art of Football. So for anything retro or vintage, just follow the link in the description at the bottom of this show, where you can get all your bucket hats, your hoodies, your t-shirts, your sweatshirts, your prints, loads of stuff. Whoever you support, go and check them out. Go and show them some support. One of the lads is a Gills fan, and they did that brilliant thing, didn't they, a few weeks ago before Crawley, where they were dishing out free scarves and t-shirts. Right, that is enough from me this evening. If you've got this far, thanks for watching, as always. We're back for a Monday review, and there might be an additional video at the weekend. I'm not sure yet. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week. And up the Gills.